newspaper business when I was a kid. A kid for me is when I was 35, you know. You don't know where life is taking you. The journey gets so exciting and so much fun if you're aiming for the top. And she aimed to do something of impact in life. So first what I want to do is give her a little bit of an award here. And I think Martha will like this. Some of you have been to these before. You know I like to give a nice little recognition to our Hilton Distinguished Entrepreneur Award winners. The government gave her an award last May, just about a year ago, as the Small Business Administration of the U.S. government named her Entrepreneur of the Year and gave her the Entrepreneur of the Year award. Our award is bigger and better, I want to tell you. Isn't this bigger and better than the SBA award? Bigger and better, yes. I'm going to put this up here. I want you guys to, here, can you hold the mic? Sure. I want you guys to take a look at it, if you will. What I want you to remember is, when are you going to be up here with me in the future, receiving the same award and talking to the future kids, motivating the future kids, telling the future kids how you did it, so they'll be able to do it their way. So it basically is the Conrad Hilton Distinguished Entrepreneur Award given to Martha. It's got a picture there, so in case she doesn't know who got it. It says some real nice things about how great she is, and we're just awful proud to give it to you. And it's going to sit down here for now, and then you don't get it until later. Okay. You got to earn it now, so speak.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. First, this is the product we produce, El Clasificado. We started with about 40,000 in 1988 circulation. We now have 170,000, and we are the largest Spanish weekly in the country. And very proud of that. We have another paper, Al Borde. It's a rock en español, somewhat like the LA Weekly. And that's what we hope to grow it into. This is smaller, and we bought this. This is our first acquisition, and we kind of did that to find out if we can be little business moguls and learn how to do acquisitions. And as part of our story, I have a few people here that I want to introduce because it's all part of a team. I'm so honored to be receiving this Hilton Award, but it is, as you will discover when you start your businesses, without all the other pieces. First, family. My husband, Joe Benami, is here, co-founder, reluctant co-founder. He didn't want me to start a business, but I had an extra $18,000 that it was either I was going to start a business or buy a red convertible Saab, and he thought that was really dumb. So I started a business. And then Elaine Sanchez, who started with us in 1992. Stand up, Elaine. Elaine, she's from East LA, started in 1992 when she was 15, right before she was going to become 16. We needed more employees, and employees who knew computers are more adult employees. And this is a time when, you know, PCs weren't so prevalent. They didn't want to learn, so I finally went to the high school. Elaine came. She looked like a, you know, typical high school girl, and my husband looked at her and said, I don't know if she's going to last. She had kind of baggy clothes, and now she graduated, CPA, owns her own house, is a director at her company, has her own car, and she did all this before she was even 25. So that's Elaine Sanchez. And then Fatima, an immigrant from Spain, and part of entrepreneuring is networking. It's something that I was really reluctant to do all the time, and it's networking not just for clients, but for one of your most valuable assets, and that's employees. And that's, you know, we love coming to LMU events because we might find a gem. And but anyway, Fatima we found because we were talking to someone at one of our vendors that it was a kennel or something, and we left our business cards there, and that person knew someone who knew someone. We needed someone in editorial, and that's how we got Fatima. And Gabby went to Cal State LA. She wanted to be a teacher. She graduated. It's a good student, but she became so important in our company and doing the layout of the paper that we promised her if she stayed. First we had to match her teacher salary. And then we promised her if she stayed that someday we would create a child care center or something to fulfill that need to help other children. And then also through our company, we do a lot of community efforts. And so we convinced her to stay, and she's now a manager in our company. She's, I don't think 25 yet either. And Peter is an LMU graduate. And I was so excited when we hired our first LMU person. I had tried many times before, but I tried more during the dot-com eras when a lot of undergraduates, here more politely, and at Cal State, I remember recruiting, and a lot of them say, no, because when I graduate, I'm going to become a millionaire. And they didn't need a job. So it was really hard when we used to actively recruit in the 90s. Now it's a little easier, and we're lucky that Peter came by, and he had left some dot-com companies. We didn't have a position for him, but we saw something very valuable with his education. And fortunately, he took a chance with us. We took a chance with him. Within a month, he got promoted. Now he's a manager of our marketing department. And when he started, I think we were less than $4 million in revenues, and now we're $6 million in revenues. When Peter started, I think we were about 45 employees. Now we're about 94 employees. And that's just in the short time period. So anyway, that's a summary of who I brought to share the story. And I was at Loyola. I started wanting to be a fine arts major, but that wasn't practical, so I became an accounting major. I wanted to go to law school. That would make my family very happy. I was first generation, first to go to college, and that was my plan. I remember being in tax class, and the teacher was from Coopers and Lyman then, and he asked everybody what they wanted to do. Every single person said, I want to work for a big 8 firm. They had 8 of them then. And then one person said, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And although I probably had seen that word before, it's like, what is that? And my friend said, oh, that's someone who wants to start their own business. I thought, oh my God, you know, who would want to take so much risk, take so much chance? You know, I want a nice, secure job in a corporation. I want to have stability. I want security. I want to do all the things that are expected that mean success instead of struggling. Because to me, a small business just seemed like a struggle then. And I never thought of entrepreneurs as the people who start companies like Staples. That was just like God started companies like that. I didn't realize that, you know, it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things and having a vision. So anyway, I went to work at Arthur, and I loved it. It was a great corporate environment. It's a great foundation. Even if you plan to be an entrepreneur, if you go that route, you will learn a lot. I learned a lot about different kinds of businesses. Then you could work at banks, oil and gas, and I got to work with a lot of CEOs. And even though the first few years I still thought they were gods, but eventually as you work with them, they come and consult with you. I was there about 7 years at Arthur Young, and they start asking your advice, and you start realizing that, you know, it's really a lot of education and experience in what you do with it, how you apply yourself. Anyway, I still didn't want to become an entrepreneur, but what I did see after about 7 years of Arthur Young was we were working hard, 7 days a week in those days, and I realized maybe being a partner didn't make sense if I wanted to have a family, so I just started looking at my options, and I started noticing a growing movement in the Hispanic market. LA Weekly always had covered events about salsa and all this other stuff. And I didn't really speak Spanish for most of my life. But I just started noticing all of a sudden there's this growth. And I had this one client, La Opinion. It's the largest Spanish daily in the country. They were one of my smallest clients. And they needed help. And I told them they're just going to go down under if they don't get a controller or CFO. So then they asked me, after being there and nagging them every 3 months about doing something about their financial situation, they said, why don't you do it? Well, it was the right time. I decided it was time to leave. I saw the market growing, and maybe it could be my niche. And if that doesn't work, I'll go to MBA school or something. So I went to work at La Opinion as a CFO. And it was a great experience. It took me a little away from accounting. I got more into finance. But they had major cash flow problems. And this actually was a good lesson because being an accountant and auditing people's books, sometimes you're just way too high level at the corporate to really see what it takes to meet payroll every week. I don't know if people talk to you about that, but it's like if you can meet payroll, that's an accomplishment. And that's a big responsibility. And we struggled at La Opinion, so I learned a lot because even though I wasn't the owner, I was reporting to the president, and I was the one who worried most about it and didn't sleep at night. So I learned a lot, and we learned to cut costs, we learned to grow revenues, I learned about the publishing business, and I was, and there's books on this, on intrapreneur. That's what I wanted to be. I thought, this is fun, growing a business, and taking something that was struggling and turning it around. But I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I still wanted my paycheck every week, and I didn't want to have to worry that much. And I wasn't that into the ultimate profit motive. I was very happy with the salary. I just liked the results. But after about 2 years, I wanted to take the company in different directions. And when you're not the entrepreneur, the CEO, you can't make those decisions. So I guess I started getting a little bit of the entrepreneur bug, but I didn't know it. I did have an idea, and desktop publishing was evolving, where you could buy PCs at, little tiny ones at $3,000, which was very cheap. And people were doing remarkable things, creating newspapers with, little $1,000 systems instead of $1 million systems. So that kind of fascinated me, and I saw the limitations that La Opinion had. We couldn't grow. We were pushing. We couldn't distribute the paper outside of downtown LA. And I kept saying, very openly, why doesn't someone start a free publication? Like the Penny Saver is very successful, and the LA Times still exists. There's enough room, and it should be free. So I just used to tell a lot of people that, including some attorneys, and they'd say, why don't I do it? And that's crazy. I'm never going to start a business. But anyway, I left La Opinion, and I wrote a business plan, because one thing I did learn at Arthur Young was how to write business plans. So something, I was kind of doing some pro bono work, doing some consulting work for La Opinion. I had some extra time. I wrote this business plan. And then, like my husband said, it was my fiance then, either, go find another job or execute this business plan. So I did it, and these attorneys that really loved the idea said they would give me all the capital and I would just do all the work. I was okay with that. I thought, if this doesn't turn out, I'm going to learn a lot. I had thought of going to get my MBA, this will be instead of that. Well, the attorneys I was dealing with, so be careful who your partners are, they were the head partners of the biggest law firm in Los Angeles. And they promised to bring in the capital, and I had done a business plan, estimated we need $500,000. They said $300,000 and convinced me it was $300,000. I said, fine. I went ahead and signed the lease. They had given me a check. Well, it bounced. And I had already been bit by the bug. It was like too late to pull back, and I had had a lot of friends. My husband was still at Arthur Young. It was the 80s. Everybody was starting up businesses. The Hispanic market was growing. And they said, oh, can I invest? Can I? No. And then I had to go back and say, well, you wanted to invest. Now we'll take investors. So between family and friends, we raised $300,000, not at one time. So we did what I never thought someone who loves security would do, and I don't recommend it, is start undercapitalized and against your better instincts. And I also had wanted, there was segments of the business, the classifieds, that I didn't really know and understand. I had wanted to just go get a job, making minimum wage, whatever, at the Penny Saver or something for a few months and just learn the business. And these attorneys, Harvard grads, talked me into, no, start it now, you'll learn as you go, we'll fund it. Against my better instinct, to this day, I still worry and struggle over that segment of the business that I've never really learned it. We're very successful at it. We're the most successful in the country in Spanish, but it's always reinventing the wheel. So that's one of my pieces of advice, especially if you're well educated, you have good experience, your instincts, you've got to believe in your instincts a little bit more than I did. And just because you get a consultant, that's from Harvard, doesn't mean they know more than you do. So anyway, we started the business and raised capital, and one of my weaknesses was marketing and sales. We hired someone else, and he was one of the top people in his field. But it's a little different when you start off with nothing. Some people, they might be very successful in the same industry that you are now entering. But it's different when you have to roll up your sleeves and start with an empty drawer of sales. So since we were undercapitalized, the money that we didn't have was probably our marketing and promotion money. We had our printing money, we had our, we didn't run out of money till about a year out. And I also had a business plan that said we would go to 90,000 circulation. That's another mistake I made. If I said it in that plan and told our investors that's what we were going to do, I didn't deviate from it. Well, that's a mistake. And we didn't start turning the company around. A few things happened. In 91, 92, my husband was always doing 2 jobs, and I started helping him using our CPA talent and raising enough money to recapitalize the company, paid off my personal debt. Oh, and since I have to tell you all the bad stuff, I had to sell my condo, I had to sell my car, move in with my dad and my new stepmother. I had to, I used to have, since I worked in the Beverly Hills office at Arthur Young, I had ballet shoes that I still had with holes that I would go in a truck to my clients. So, I mean, it was rough. And a few years ago, I would never even talk about it. And however rough you think it is, and especially on your family, my mom and dad stopped loaning me money, and they would just come and work. And I was really ashamed of that. But then I started waking up and seeing other ethnic groups and seeing how those small businesses thrive, and then I started realizing this is okay. And now we have a very family-oriented business. My mother and father still work a little bit. My husband and I work just a few inches apart from each other. He's there now full-time. And a lot of our employees are related. So for us, it works out well. And I think for a lot of small businesses in the history of capitalism in this country, it's a lot of family businesses growing something. It's like the Hilton. And we turned it into something good. So I did want to mention that, and I won't dwell too long, but it was miserable 10 years. I didn't take a salary, and neither did Joe or anyone else in our family. But anyway, we did well using our CPA skills, and we were able to recapitalize around 92, 93. What we wanted to do was just pay off as much debt. The country was also in a major recession. That started a year after we started our business, so that was very bad luck. Where before, even if you didn't know what you were doing and you were in the Hispanic market, you were making a lot of money. So we changed a few things. Besides paying off the debt, I saw this movie, Stand and Deliver, and we needed better employees who knew how to use computers, and Garfield was down the street from us. So that's when I mentioned Elaine earlier. I called them up, I said, please send me your A students, just as long as they know how to type. And one of the things about hiring high school students is one of the issues we have as a small company, we only have about 10 employees. But if one person is gone because their babysitter doesn't show up or their car doesn't work, you know, that's 10% of the company. And it can really screw you up. So working with the students, their schedules were fixed, they would walk over, they didn't have car problems, they didn't have baby problems. That really started helping. We could start getting things done without Joe and I doing everything and not being able to get anything done. Then also we changed the distribution method, and Joe put it on a database, and we started monitoring everything we did, what we dropped, what wasn't taken, what should be taken, and we got it down to a science that we win awards for our circulation program. That is what really distinguishes our paper, and we invest more in our distribution to this day than any other paper. And I think it's going to. We have a lot of competition now that it still makes us stand out, and even the major companies like Chicago Tribune and La Opinion, they want our help. They claim they put little GPS things on Joe's car because of our distribution methods. So that was a big turning point for us, a real value of our paper. So the combination of those two things, we still, you know, we thought, oh, we're going to be CPAs, we'll make more money that way, we'll just get rid of the company. We were never willing to. Well, I wasn't willing to walk away from it. My family wanted me to, but I was never willing to go bankrupt because people who invested in me, they believed in me. They were my friends, they were my business colleagues, and I think that's where, you know, that's why I went to Loyola. That wasn't ethical to me. Yes, it was available to me, but I could never face anyone if I did that. So I thought if I can at least pay them, I'm still willing not to take a salary, pay off all my debts, pay off all the stockholders, then I can be free and move on. Well, while I was busy doing this and still doing some CPA work on the side, we started getting a payoff from the investment we made with our young employees and with our distribution. And the cash accounts started growing. And our clients started renewing and staying with us, and we started booming. I remember the first time we had $8,000, I thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with $8,000? And now we, in 1 week, now we do over 100,000. Some things would start breaking though, and that's another part of being an entrepreneur, and it's one of the things that I fear most. And it's growing too fast for your infrastructure. Now, of course, then we were building infrastructure because we didn't think we were going to grow. So we had to start building our infrastructure and start acting like we're going to continue with this business. And it actually started getting very comfortable. I was able to take a salary, $100 a week, and we were incurring no more debt. And then we bought our own building, and all these things started feeling good. And from having nothing to all of a sudden, we were able to buy a small, modest home. This felt really good. And not having to work 7 days a week, I was happy. I could even come in late once in a while. I could even get sick. But then something new happened. Not only were we growing, but our employees who started graduating from college wanted to stay. So they couldn't be happy just being a nice little small business. We had to grow, and we didn't want to push them out. So we had to get on a more aggressive growth plan. And then the competition started getting rougher because then we started getting awards. People started getting to know us. So it's like the more people know you and the more recognition you get, the harder you have to work to keep your market share. So things started turning around for us late 90s, and we're now a profitable company. And I think I said earlier, we're on our way to be a $6 million company. And it was very hard. Now our biggest stresses are that everybody wants to buy us. Should we sell? I don't want to. My husband doesn't want to. Although sometimes we wake up and we think, oh, we don't have anything more to teach our people. Our managers are so young. They've worked here all their lives. They don't know what it's like anywhere else. We've given them everything we know. And since we're not publishers, we're bean counters by trade, and that's still what we prefer. Everything's always reinventing the wheel. So a few years ago, we thought we might have to sell. But before that, let's reinvent ourselves so we become more attractive to who we ever sell ourselves to. So we started getting more into PR, going to trade conventions. As a bean counter, I just love being in front of the computer, not going anywhere, not going to lunch, none of that networking stuff. But if you're an entrepreneur, you can't be like that. You have to like that. And eventually it gets good. So anyway, we started doing that. And we started hiring consultants who worked at papers comparable to our paper in the English language market. And they just loved what we did. As a matter of fact, they would love to buy us and would love to know everything about us. So we have some pretty pricey consultants who now come. They used to come monthly, now they come quarterly. And they meet with key people in our staff and push everyone, including my husband and myself, to new levels. Because you can get a little stagnant. And what's nice is they teach us a lot. Some of these are Harvard graduates, MBAs, former vice presidents and penny savers. They know a lot, but they can teach us, but we can also teach them. And what's funny is they recognize that first. A lot of people think we're the experts in the Hispanic market. I think my husband and I look at ourselves, we have so much more to learn, we have so much more to do, but now the more we meet of those people, we realize we really do know a lot, and we have to capitalize on that. But we sharpen our knowledge, we sharpen our skills by continually forcing ourselves to meet with other people that before we would just not make the time to meet. And we're selective on hiring our consultants, but it really does, it's very expensive, and as a small business, it's often the way to go because you can't have a full-time like human resource person there. You can't afford that, but that's very key to have that consultant and strategic planner. You can't have a strategic planning department or a law department. So those people have helped us, not, like I said, not just trained us. First I went to some of these conventions, and then we started sending our employees, and it really does help. But we have a long ways to go. My biggest fear, I mentioned to a few of you, is that once again, growing so fast, and not just our infrastructure in general, because we have a lot of answers, we know what to do, but it's our IT. That really scares me. Joe and I used to be our IT people. And then Elaine was our IT person. Now we have two people who have, it's their background, but we've kind of outgrown them. and things change. So that's very scary. We're so dependent on emails. When your emails go down, sometimes your business stops, and we're dependent on ads coming in through the email payments coming in. And that's one of the key areas that I really lose sleep over. The other challenge as a business that I kind of hinted upon is human resources. It's an area where I don't think I took a single class that had anything to do with it. It's one of our biggest challenges. I have a fear that the government's going to tax us out of business or legislate us out of business. It's no matter what you do. And we're a nice company, and we're given recognition for being a nice company. We have very little turnover. We're very good with all our employees. I was supposed to say what my weaknesses are, and I think one of them is I hate firing people. I'm really reluctant to do it. And I've been that way to the detriment sometimes of our company, that, you know, my husband has to come in and do the dirty work. But I've learned, you know, that I have to do that because now that we have more employees, when you have one bad employee with a bad attitude and low productivity, it's unfair to the others, and that's motivated me to have to say goodbye to people who hurt your business. It can, in a small business, and 94 is small, it's a cancer. And if you can get any training, that's another suggestion I have, human resources and how to deal with things, you know, which is not always common sense. It's with the laws of the state, which are more stricter than the laws of the federal government. I think that's very key, and it's, we're always reading, you know, what to do, what not to do, and it just, you know, it just amazes me. Last week, we went to unemployment insurance, like labor court or something. Someone worked for us 10 days, left the job, didn't sign anything, just, you know, voluntarily quit, and now 2 years later, he claims that we laid him off and he gets to collect unemployment insurance, and because of things like that, our unemployment went from 10,000 a year ago the same week to 18,000. That's a lot for us. And for a company that doesn't lay off people, we do not lay off people. We never do that. We create jobs when we don't have positions, because if someone comes to us with a resume and we go, wow, we want this person, we want to find this person. Maybe they're an editorial or PR or you know, translating, and it doesn't generate revenue, so we say, we'll take you on, but can you help 2 or 3 days a week in sales, you know, taking classified ads, just something to help the cash come in so we can pay for that position until we grow big enough, so that's a full-time position. And so that they're kind of entrepreneurial also in, you know, as employees, and that's one thing in the future that we hope, we do have some stockholders, and we hope to be able to move on to an employee-owned business, because, especially with key employees, they've been part of this entrepreneurship that we've been going through, and I hope that when you start your businesses that you think of that and get yourself educated, because we have to learn how to do it and how to do it right and protect, you know, the corpus of the business, but we certainly would like to do that. Compensation plans, that's very tricky. As entrepreneurs, you know, try to educate yourself on that. I get consultants who still don't know the answers, so that's very challenging. That's one of the things I spent most of my time on. I want to make sure I address, I wasn't supposed to write a speech, and I wouldn't be, but I want to make sure I address some of the things that Dr. Kiesner said. Let's see, what excites me? Making something out of nothing, successful employee. One, taking, you know, an A student from East LA and seeing how she develops. And then also we have a young lady who was brought to us as an intern, an unwed teenage mother from alternative school. And she wasn't the typical type of success story we're used to, but we made room for her, and she didn't know how to type. It took her a while. She started entry levels, pretty much still there, but she's making it. She goes to work every day. She's very reliable. She learns slow, but she's there, and that feels good too, from all the different ranges. And I think the thing that my husband and I like most about what we do is we create jobs. And we were given this award last week for the Inner City 100 in Inc. magazine. If any of you get that magazine, we're in there. We didn't even know about this award. It recognizes the fastest growing companies in the United States that have succeeded in the inner city, because so many businesses and people leave the inner city. we have to honestly say we went to East LA because that's where the Hispanic market was. But we haven't left, even though we're now successful. As a matter of fact, we just bought 2 buildings, and we live in a very small, we operate a very small building that we bought. It was all run down, and we planted creeping fig and landscaped it. And it's funny, ourselves, where people would walk by and ask if they could hire us to landscape their places. But that's what you do when you're an entrepreneur. You're not going to pay someone to do that. And we made it really nice. So we got kind of famous in East LA, where the politicians, even if we're not on the same side, they've given us a lot of recognition, and they want us to stay there. They don't want us to leave. And we bought some buildings there, and we don't like taking subsidies, but they're going to at least fix the alleys and remove the dead trees on the sidewalk, because they know when we buy those buildings, we're going to make it nice. It'll be modest, but it'll be nice, it'll be pretty, and we will hire more people. And it makes the community feel good. I can't say we did this on purpose. We do it because it makes us feel good to see the reactions of all these other people. But people do recognize that it's a good thing, and fortunately other companies are doing it all over the nation, and they're recognized as part of this Inner City 100. And they've done studies how a lot of times the government pays subsidies. For instance, there's this, I won't mention the name, but it's a coffee house, was paid $400,000 to move into East LA. And that's ridiculous, because it still hasn't opened up. It's $400,000, and they're not going to create a lot of jobs. And then there's other businesses like El Pacificado with no government subsidies. If you have a good job, and if the government stays out of your way and doesn't tax you to death for everything, you can create something successful, and you can empower your community by creating jobs and making the area nicer through capitalism, and offer a service. We offer classified ads, about $15 a week. There was a time when we thought, I was doing all the invoices myself. I don't know if classified is going to work for us. Then we were only getting $6. It's not worth the invoice that I'm typing. And this man came in and said, here's my $6. You haven't invoiced me for a long time. I don't want you to stop, because I live off this ad for my carpenter services and feed my family. And that's what $6, for $6 this man was able to support himself. I felt good. I go, okay, we're on the right track. This is a good thing that we're doing, the classifieds. And we do have more Spanish classifieds than any paper in the country. I didn't already say that. And what's funny and good, it feels good about the success. We have, unlike the Penny Saver, which does a lot of private party ads, we do a lot of ads that are service ads. So for yourselves, if you want to reach the Hispanic market and you want to start small, mostly businesses advertise in El Pacificado, and so that's really empowerment to the community. And by having 160,000, which is last week, this week we're going to 170,000, we reach over 650,000 readers a week, and we give the opportunity to this community to sell their services and to buy products. It feels good. And I can't say that it wasn't my intention. Like I said, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it feels so good to publish something that does so much. And one other thing that we add to it, and I think makes our company special. From the beginning, we've had, even though it's free, unlike the Penny Saver, we do 5% editorial. And the editorial is not news. It's editorial that helps the community. I looked at it when my parents came here, they said, you have to go to college. We don't know how you're going to do it, you just have to do it. So we write articles to the parents, how to get your kid in college. We write Latino role models, so other kids see that, hey, someone from Southgate or someone from East LA, they grew up with the same resources I had, which were few, and they're successful. So we write student role models, things about cooking, things about how to buy a car, how to buy insurance, how to buy a home. And it's simple editorial. And we don't do the long newspaper 3-page story. We just do the little half page, and a lot of our readers have 2 jobs. They take the bus, so I've always liked to tailor it something quick, bullets to the point, that they can inform themselves. They know my kid has to take 2 years of language in high school, not just get A's, they have to do some specific things or they're not going to go to college, because a lot of immigrant parents don't know this. They may not have had more than, a 5th grade education. And that feels really good that we do that. And we get a lot of emails that people thank us for simple things like that. So the combination of our product, our employees, our customers, the recognition that we get really motivate and make us feel good about what we do, and being part of the inner city, creating jobs, giving back to the community, doing it on an appropriate, ethical, being honest. I think the payoff has been, even though we should have been bankrupt, we paid our debts. We've always tried to do the right thing for the right reasons, and I really think it's paid off, and I think it's the reason for our success. And if I have 1 minute, I just wanted to... Okay. Well, I wanted to read something that was read to us at a board meeting, and I thought it was appropriate, knowing I was going to have to speak for about 45 minutes here, and being loyal, I know that I can do this. Disturb us, Lord, when we are too well pleased with ourselves, when our dreams have come true because we have dreamed too little, when we arrive safely because we sailed too close to the shore. Disturb us, Lord, when with the abundance of things we possess, we have lost our thirst for the waters of life. Having fallen in love with life, we have ceased to dream of eternity, and in our efforts to build a new earth, we have allowed our vision of the new heaven to dim. Disturb us, Lord, to dare more boldly, to venture on wider seas, where storms will show your mastery. Where losing sight of land, we shall find the stars. We ask you to push back the horizons of our hopes and to push into the future in strength, courage, hope, and love. I think there's going to be a lot of great ideas in this program that you have. Loyola is known for its successful entrepreneur program, and I hope that you all reach high for your dreams and get there. Thank you.
She hasn't fully earned her lunch yet.
I'll answer any questions.
Yep. Let me make a comment. Let me make a comment. You know how hell good my job is? I get to hang with people like this. This is a fine lady, and what a wonderful accomplishment she's done. You guys someday are going to get an award like this. I'm going to be here for it. But more fun, let me tell you something. She started out her story by telling you it was her business or a red Saab convertible, as I recall. You know what? She can afford 10 or 12 red Saab convertibles now. Do you hear the moral of that? Put off till tomorrow what you think you want today so you can make enough tomorrow to get what you really want out of life. This is one fabulous lady, and I'm extremely proud to have her back as one of our alums, because this is what LMU is all about. What was most important, what she said, if I may give you a critique, this is like an academic thing, you're supposed to critique everybody's speech, you know? Except the academic guys like to rip the other guys apart, but I don't do that. She should have given you a beautiful example, an absolutely wonderful example of what I think is critical in entrepreneurship and what I think is critical in business life. I want you guys, and I've said this to a lot of you, I want you to be filthy, filthy rich in life. I want you all to become millionaires and billionaires, make a bucket, buy lots of red Saabs. But what you do with that money, how you use your power and your achievement, how you use what you achieve in life, it ain't the money that does it, the money's a yardstick. How you use what that money allows you in power and in the ability to influence life is the critical thing. And did you hear what they're already doing? The things they're doing for people like you, the example they're setting in the community. You clean up a building, you make the community better, you invest money in your physical plant to help create jobs. That's what this lady and their whole company is all about. And damn, I'm proud to have him here. Let's have time for a couple of questions, okay?
Yes.
I knew Eric would be first. Eric's one of my former graduates, and he probably came to 10 of these damn things. And at every damn one of them, Eric was the first one always to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
First, I want to congratulate you. It seems like you have a wonderful business, and I think it's great that you've changed so many people's lives. I want to know if maybe you could talk about, especially being from an accounting background, you always want to cut costs and so forth. I know a lot of other entrepreneurs that treat their employees like, use this piece of paper that just is recycle all the time. I want to know if you could tell us about how maybe being good to your employees and maybe being good to the community was also good for the business, as economically speaking. Because, with the Enrons and all these bad corporate companies, you start thinking being bad is what makes money. And you've shown that maybe being good makes money. If you could talk about that.
Fortunately, I meet a lot of people that are good examples about being good, makes money, and those entrepreneurs and successful business people that I admire most have the same philosophy on a bigger basis, so I know it can still happen. When we start, maybe I didn't put this part in. Some of our employees had to hold their checks for 3 weeks, or some of them had to hold their checks for a few months. So when you start off, they were very loyal to us, and in exchange, we're indebted to them, especially those who are still with us. It's hard, and how to compensate your employees is tricky. You want to give them more than anything. Usually, most of our employees were on minimum wage when we started, and now we try to pay market. And what we do is we pay about market for a medium company, but we pay it to employees who somewhere else may not have had the same chance. Maybe they're too young, they're too inexperienced, and we try to see who do we have here that we've grown that is ready to take on new responsibilities, and can they do it? And fortunately, we're a small company, we can transition them, we can give them opportunities, we can throw the balls at them a few times and see if they run with it. So we give opportunities to probably grow faster than a lot of our employees would at other companies. And no, we never start anyone on minimum wage anymore. We're proud of that. Although it's not that minimum wage is bad. There's some employees where if there were not so many restrictions on wages, there are some people who we can't give jobs to that we might be a little bit more flexible about giving them jobs and trying them out, if we didn't have those restrictions. But we try to see what the industry pays and what the market pays, and we try to stay with that and be fair. And we certainly, main thing, you want to keep your good employees, so you got to do what you have to do. Yes?
Will you ever consider going international? And why or why not?
No. The real question is, will we ever consider going outside of California? There was a time when we didn't want to go out of LA. I don't see international because we're a Spanish publication. We have to use a lot of slang to be accepted in the market, to my parents' dismay. And this is a different market, but LA is bigger than most countries' economy. California is, one of the top, economies in the world. There's so much business here. It's why do it somewhere else? We were recently offered to be acquired for millions and millions of dollars. Probably they never said a number, by a major company, but it required, and they promised to keep all our employees, which is always a reason why we don't even want to consider it. But Joe and I would have to create little clasificados all over the country. Maybe if this was 15 years ago when we were younger, but it's like, we don't want to do that. We love LA, and we want to have a few weekends off and enjoy it with our employees or our families. Growing, it's not all about money. It's about what you do with the money, and leisure time and time with your family is so valuable, and that time just flies by. And we try to keep everything in balance, and not just with us. We're very conscious of that with our employees. It's my dream. It seems like a necessity that we're going to have a child care center somehow, because there aren't any in East LA, and probably the majority of our managers are women, and young women, and it's going to happen, and they could be very disruptive to a small company. I mentioned that a lot, and it's like people really hang on to that when I talk to other groups, to other older groups. It's not exactly a novel idea, but for a small business, it's a novel idea, and I think we're going to have to do it. International, it's not attractive to me. I like to travel on pleasure, not business. And I think my husband's the same way, so I just don't think it's for us. Any other questions?
One last quick one.
Yes.
I was just kind of curious, when your business was starting out, you had a small company, you were trying to raise capital and you were issuing stock. How much stock did you issue and at what price, and how do you come up with those figures?
We issued it at $1 a share. We just kind of made it up, and we just kept issuing. We knew we needed 500,000. We only raised about 300 and something thousand. It just seemed simple. We had some attorneys. We were real novices at it. I'm sure all of you know more than I knew then and more than I do now. You're really ahead of the game by being in this program. Believe me, it took us 16 years to learn a lot of what you know. But LLCs didn't exist then. If I had it to do over with, and if that existed, I would have done an LLC instead.
You might mention the problems with raising capital that you might have down the road when you want to take the company, say private.
A lot of companies want to buy us, and one of the things they don't like is that we still have, how many?
30.
We still have 30 other stockholders of non-family members. And usually if someone wants to buy the company, they don't want to buy those other stockholders, they just want to get rid of them. Well, we don't want to mistreat our stockholders. A lot of them just put $1,000 in just to help out. It was their Super Bowl money or whatever. But still, we respect every single one of those people because, when they were 25 and they put that 1,000 in, it was a lot of money to them. So we don't have an exit strategy, and it's really a good idea to have that. So we did buy out some of our stockholders a few years ago, and we'll try to do another one. We want to be generous, but also we want to be able to afford it because we want to have control of our company. A few years ago, we were the principal stockholders, but we didn't have majority. Now we do have majority, and I certainly hope all of you don't make those mistakes. Try not to issue more shares than you have to. SBA is a great program. It wasn't available to us then because they did not loan to companies in the media at that time. Now they would. But my advice, try to keep control until you really have your model going. And then if you want to sell it, then you're in a stronger position.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you to clap for Martha, but I'm also going to have Papa Martha stand up and Family Martha stand up. They're running a hell of a company. This is what LMU people are all about. Give them all a great hand.